by saying there's a psychological principle that losses loom larger than gains. And so each generation is different from the one before, and the older one looks at them and says, well, they don't have this thing that we have, therefore they're deficient, and we don't notice the thing that they do have that is good. That's the normal process. That is eternal. That's not what we're talking about. That's part of it. That's fine. But above and beyond that, if you look at objective measures of functioning, such as the number who cut themselves to the point where they have to be hospitalized, that's not just like, we think that's bad, but you know, for them, I mean, it's a good thing, you know?
Absolutely.
So, so this is what is so stunning, is by objective measures, kids born after 1995 are cratering in their mental health. Now, the stats, if you look at self-reported depression and anxiety, they go way up beginning with that birth year. Colleges are overwhelmed by people coming in saying they're depressed and anxious, not schizophrenia, not bipolar, not anything else, just depression and anxiety, not even stress. They're not more stressed, they just don't know how to deal with it. But here's the kicker. Many people say to us, oh, you know, that's just self-report. Like, these young people, they're so comfortable talking about depression, it's not a real thing. And if you look at the graphs of hospital admissions for cutting yourself, the graph for boys actually is fairly low, and that actually does not go up. The boys don't change. But the girls, the millennial girls just sort of go like this. The older iGen girls, or rather the graph of late teens girls goes like this. And the graph of 11 to 13-year-olds from around 2000, we get right here, we get to 2013, it goes like this. It's tripled. 3 times as many girls are putting themselves in the hospital, preteens. Same thing for suicide. The rate's way up, and these exact trends are exactly the same in the UK and in Canada. So that's why we think it's a combination of overprotection, which is happening in all those countries, plus the specific spur of social media, which specifically affects girls a lot more than boys.
Yeah, how severe the increase in anxiety and depression? I always talk about like the 2 things that really surprised me in working on the book. The first one was how bad all of the data was on the increase in anxiety and depression, and you know, that's whether it's self-reports, it's whether what we're hearing actually from people on the ground, and that's what we're seeing from things that you can't effectively fake. That scared me to death. It was much worse than I ever thought. The surprising thing that really struck me about the book, particularly as someone who has a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old, was how well established it is that kids need free time, free play, unstructured time. And I felt like I talked to a number of experts who were practically yelling this, you know, basically saying this is really well established.
Kids need free time!
Yeah, exactly. And meanwhile, you know, with my kids, when I look at other people in Washington D.C. my age, like they're scheduling them from 6 a.m. to 11 a.m. like this is not to 11 p.m. like this is not a thing.
Mm-hmm. Gotta enrich them. Right.
What? Let me ask the question another way. What's good about the current generation? So, if we go back to the the generational paradigms that I was describing earlier, we can say that the greatest generation were selfless and thrifty, but they were also emotionally stunted and, you name it, cheap, I mean, whatever. We can say that the baby boomers were narcissists, but we can also say on the flip side, they were, much more open to human difference, much more tolerant of diversity, in each case. So is there something that is there a flip side to all the things you're describing that's actually beautiful and positive about what this generation is doing?
Yeah, well, the data in iGen shows what we kind of all know, which is that to them, differences in sexuality, when we were growing up, it was like, who cares? Right. So the march of tolerance, which has been going on for decades and decades, is certainly marching on. So they're incredibly tolerant. They're much less likely to drink, do drugs, have premarital sex, all sorts of things that get teenagers in trouble. The flip side of that, of course, is teenagers probably need to get in a little bit of trouble to test the limits. And so, we can point to specific bad things that they're not doing, but I think it is ultimately a stunting of ability, which means that it's not just like, well, it's this and that. I think it really is, as Twenge puts it, by all the markers of development, an 18-year-old today is at the level of a 15-year-old from 30 years ago. And this is why Greg and I recommend in our book, we should consider not having 18-year-olds on college campuses. They're really not ready for it, a lot of them. And so the norm should be a gap year. And this might be the only way to get kids away from the overprotective helicopter parents. Right. So, you know,
You think
spend a
that's going
year
to get them away? You're wrong.
Yeah.
Right? They're going to be tracked. What I was going to say about this generation is that all is not lost. I mean, we do in their book and in our book, we, you know, Let Grow has a couple of ideas that are really practical and really simple to give kids back the independence that will lead to more resilience. One of them is just, it's called the Let Grow Project. It's not even a project. It's the teachers telling the kids to go home and do one thing on their own without their parents. It's homework. And when kids do it, it breaks the cycle pretty fast because the parents are so proud that the kid has done, oh my God, my kid got a Slurpee, yay, you know, high five. But that changes the parent as much as the kid because finally they've to let the kids go and do something in the real world, and the reinforcement of the pride that the parents feel allows them to do it again. And with people like us saying free time is good and kids need some independence, between that and having a push from the school, and everybody in the school is doing it, so you're not the crazy mom, that's really, I mean, that can just reset the whole thing. I mean, I know that sounds pretty easy and self-serving, but it can really change things fast.
Can I just, oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. And one of the things that I wanted to add was, you know,